see the outside, but white lies turn to purple elephants. How many times will I have to tell you it? I hope you know how to live with it, cause it's not going away. Don't try, don't try, don't. White lies turn to purple elephants. Don't try, you'll become irrelevant. You can't train a purple elephant, give it a name and try to lock it away. But how can I take you seriously? You live with purple elephants. You think I'm being dramatic, it's the habit that'll drive you away. Yeah. It's time to purple elephants in your room. It's time to purple elephants in your room.
Hello there, and you are there. I'm here, and this is episode 25 of Killin Time. Another one without a title, starting off without a title, but I'm sure it'll come to me as again whilst we're doing it or whilst I'm editing. It did have a title, but some things changed. So without kind of teasing that too much, let's just quickly get into all of this and talk about one thing. So in this episode, you'll hear from some ex-admins of the Luke Mitchell groups on Facebook. So the episode itself was going to look at Sandra Lean and her behaviour and how she resets her matrix with a fresh crop of different admins, and her behaviour towards those and how that goes. But something came up. On one of the group admin, the support pages or the justice pages, someone had asked a question. Now this post has now since disappeared, but the post went as simple. We'll have a look. I'm scared to ask, is not aware of what happened, and don't want to unwittingly stir the pot, but is Sandra still involved? To which the reply was, your guess is as good as mine. Now, I had heard for a little bit that Sandra Lean had been less active and that she seemed to have dropped off the radar a little. Now, not in total, Sandra Lean's still alive and kicking, but taking less to do with the group. Now, no explanation has been given to this point, and it hasn't been confirmed by Sandra Lean. But the person answering that question now seems to be in charge, or running, or whatever way you want, adminning, whatever way you want to put it, the page. And for want of a better description, or by the looks of it, seems to be running the campaign. Now, Scott Forbes is still in the sidelines, like Stephen Flynn says.
When chuntering for a sedentary position, like a wee daffy.
But that we will look at in this episode as well. The war between the new leader-in-chief on the Sandra Lean side and Scott Forbes seems to be a thing now. Again, said this months ago that this was all going to happen, and here they go, another bunch of people chucking each other under the bus. But Sandra Lean seems to be away, but at the same time, the person that seems to have taken over is in no way, shape or form a better person. opinion here. I don't think I need to. I think when people hear that, they know exactly where that's coming from. And given the fact that at the time, Sandra Lean was across everything, she would have known that things like that were happening. And she's still guilt by association here. She may not have been the one that left the voice note, but definitely the one that let them off the leash. So, as I say, you'll hear about Gemma through these, and I think probably in a wee bit more after we've listened to what has to be said. But let's start with some chats with the ex-admins, and then we'll look at some other stuff after that. Now, of course, what I will say, and I'll put this up front here, is I might not agree with everything that's said, but at the end of the day, it's people's chance to speak. I'm not going to be my usual cutting to lots of different clips taking the piss, because I do think, as I say, there is the need for them to have a voice, but I probably will splice in a couple of things because I'm just a little bit cheeky here and there. But anyway, as I say, what I've done obviously is asked a series of different things just to get a kind of rough idea across the board how people feel and etc. about what happened. And I was, kind of going to put that all together and just do it in a kind of artsy way, but I don't think that, again, that serves the right purpose. So what I will do is actually just let their answers play, let you hear exactly what they've got to say, and maybe a little comment in between the people, the chat itself. But as I say, this is really what I want to show you here is basically Sandra has a way of making people feel important, in my opinion. And I think, again, this is just my speculation station, but I think from what I can see and the patterns and the things that I've heard and people I've spoke to, a lot of the time there's a good feeling of belonging and purpose when you're entrusted with Sandra Lean and whatnot, and that's to be expected. If someone puts doctor at the start of their name, you think it's official, but really I think I've made a good crack at showing you that anybody can be a doctor. You can put doctor at the start of your name, you can put anything at the start of your name. Doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make you any more professional, any more knowledgeable, and any more competent at what you're supposed to do as a job, which you don't. So, as I say, I think she does have the ability to vulnerable people, I suppose, but it can be a social vulnerability as well, especially, or maybe even like a kind of curiosity as well. I think that taking advantage of a curious mind is something that she can do with a lot of people. This really comes into her way of thinking, this kind of hypnotherapy and everything that she's done beforehand. It's a great self-own. There's a lot of self-reporting in some of Sandra Lean's posts in terms of, this is what you do in terms of information dumps, and it is amazing when you actually think it's right there out there in the open, if you're willing to actually look into what she's saying. But regardless, let's hear what some other people have to say for once, and I will see you in between and, of course, on the other side.
I first became interested in the case through my sister, who was telling me about the Murder in a Small Town documentary and about Luke, and I couldn't think who it was, so I watched it, and after I watched it we both had questions, so we started digging into everything and reading everything we could, and then we joined some Facebook groups to gain more information. After being a member for a while, we were invited to be a part of the team as moderators on the official group, well, the unofficial group, answering questions and making sure there wasn't any trolls and such things like that. We researched and wrote posts, and I learned how to make videos. Through learning that, I opened a TikTok account, which was also slated. We spent about 18 hours most days doing stuff for the group, but anybody on the group with a different point of view was pretty much dehumanised. I wasn't comfortable with that, because the way one of the current admin, you know the one that likes to go around at the moment saying people don't have credentials, yeah, she came across very much to dictator. Who is she?
Who is she? Who is she? Who is she? Where did you find her?
After having so much respect for Sandra, pretty quickly it became apparent if you were useful to her, she kept you on her side. But if you had to correct her, like myself and my sister had to do a few times, she became quite vindictive and petty. Something that I thought was a positive back then, but looking back, it's actually negative. I'll give you an example. If anyone questioned anything about case progress, it was Sandra or a current admin telling you to hang fire, there was a big or important update coming, which we thought then was a positive or some good news. So we'd hang off, but as we now know, there was no actual update, or any update on the update. Maybe the update, or the update of the update, or even the 2.0 version. You know the one, bigger, faster, guaranteed to bring in more donations update, that just turns into just pimping tablet and raffle tickets. Publicly, if there were any issues in the team, Sandra would private message you and say, "Oh, what happened? If I can't, I don't know, I can't help." So you'd say, and then she'd try and gaslight you. At the time, we didn't realise it was gaslighting until by chance I was speaking to a counsellor friend. When she asked me why I'd left the group, I showed her some messages, and she said that was certainly not a decent way to treat people. At the time though, I was blindsided that it was gaslighting because I was so upset, because it was my late dad who was being used against me. This is when I first really saw the true Sandra and how manipulative she really could be. She has no boundaries when bringing relatives into conversations. So all in all, no positives, just negatives. There was obviously the group rules and the additional verbal ones that had filtered in for Sandra. You were told could have consequences to Luke's case. There was a heightened sense of anxiety that really was not healthy for fear of getting something wrong and jeopardising the case, as this had been drummed into us by Sandra. But ironically, looking back now, this double standard clearly never applied to her. It's frustrating because at that point me and my sister were given 24/7 to help in the campaign, and the last thing we would have wanted was to do or say something wrong. After how myself and my sister were treated and how I saw others be treated, I was slowly losing respect for Sandra and other team members. But the straw that really broke the camel's back for me was the Facebook Live from May 2023 protest in Edinburgh, where she stood there and told the supporters that she found out about the destruction of evidence after the handover of the petition in November 2022. I know that was false, because well before the petition handover, she told us a whistleblower had come forward to say they were tampering with evidence. I couldn't understand that something like that wouldn't be acted on instantly. Things just weren't adding up, and I just couldn't work with people I don't trust. And it's gone from bad to worse with all the transcripts conflicting with what was said in the book. And all the endless demand for money for Sandra for samples, when the samples might not even exist anymore. Luke would only have one person to thank for that. The first morning I woke up after leaving the group, I realised how much lighter I really felt. All the anxiety had gone to constantly checking the group and walking on eggshells around certain people, and I thought finally I was going to get some peace. But I also felt a bit resentful of all the time the group had taken away from my family life. I have never publicly or privately said that I think Luke is guilty. But just because I couldn't work with Sandra or her current admin, it gets you written off as a loyal supporter, referred to as vile ex-supporter, vile ex-member of the team, vile traitor, and it didn't stop there. Some of the current team were sent intimidating messages. And even though she had left, Sharon sent an email to Sandra asking for us to be left alone, to which was ignored, by the way. So contrary to what yous may have heard, there was no feud. Just half the team refusing to work with someone so comfortable lying to the public. And the Luke supporters deserve way more respect than that. And it's my choice if I am a Luke supporter, not Sandra and her joke of a campaign to say otherwise. My choice. There are people in that admin group who are clearly only there for nosiness and drama and just to stir it. Our motive is as see-through as our tights. Fact members are asking if the two main groups are still active, are asking if Sandra is still involved, and they are told, your guess is as good as mine. Just shows how crap the communication with the members really is. So much for having Luke's best interest at heart, eh? All I have to say is, aye, well done. When I think about it now, I don't have any regrets, as I've made some really good, fantastic friends for life, and we all support each other. Because we've all been through stuff before and since leaving the group. At the end of the day though, life is more than just a group. But while I'm on the topic of good friends, there is one thing I want to address. One last thing I want to address. And before I do, I want to say what I've said before now, and what I'm going to say from now, is that all I have said is my word, my thoughts and my feelings. I am not doing anyone's bidding. That's only for people who haven't taken the blinkers off that are doing that. Anyway, I just want to say at the time how upset I was that Sharon chose to leave her own group. I felt as though she was being pushed out, but that's just my opinion. After her previously having a heart attack and then being in hospital with a fatal heart rhythm that was touch and go for a bit, left her very weak. But from her hospital bed, she was still running the group, even though she was meant to be in complete bed rest, because some of the current admin at the time didn't step up. They only stepped up when they wanted to have a temper tantrum. Anyway, for her own health, she decided to leave. I can see now it was the best thing for her, and seeing how happy she is now doing what makes her happy without the stress, it was the right choice for her. But as you can see, since she's left, as well as some of the other ones who done most of the work, it has seriously went stagnant and is now only used for fake updates and fundraising. Also, looking back, they knew what kind of stress she was under with her heart, but the fact that it was heavily hinted that it was Sharon who gave out Sandra's phone number and it was Sharon who got Sandra's birthday party cancelled, the stress of that could have killed her. So for someone who is meant to be a professional in their job to heavily insinuate that, so much so that people was messaging Sharon to see if it was her Sandra was talking about, that's the lowest of the low. I know I'm going to annoy people by saying this, but Sharon was the driving force of that campaign, and that's why it's dead now, because she's not there. I know some people, their bark is worse than their bite, but if they spent less time trying to bark and trying to bite and actually did some work, they might get somewhere with helping Luke. But I'd just like to end what I have to say by thanking Sandra for opening my eyes and showing me what a cult really is, so I don't get caught up in another one in the future.
As I say, I won't put too much of my thoughts here. I'll just kind of put myself in here to break it up. But you can see from what we're hearing, obviously, that there's the walking on eggshells comment kind of sticks there, but just the general behaviours running through it, and a little mention for our next in line, our new Caesar there as well. The civil war between Gemma and Scott, which again we'll go into after we've listened to everything, and I'll go into that in a wee bit, and a little bit that kind of connects in as well, segues as well. So anyway, let's get back to where we were.
Hi, my name is Cheryl. I was 19 when it happened, and I remember being horrified by the sheer brutality of the case. Shocked by lack of evidence and just how could they find Luke Mitchell guilty. I started looking on Facebook for a group on the case to follow because I always wanted to meet other people who, like myself, I thought looked to be innocent. And then I got a private message asking if I would like to join the team as a moderator, and I absolutely jumped at the chance. My role as a moderator was to accept new members or not to accept them. You wouldn't accept a member like if they had no profile photo or their profile was only like a few months old. Answered questions, removed comments that broke the rules. Me and Sandra never really had any back and forth messages with each other. She would never drop me a message to check in on me, because I was like new to the group. And I remember like joining and kind of like looking up to her, and thinking, wow, this woman's dedicated her whole life to, Luke Mitchell, but and that she was this nice and polite woman, but it was nothing like that. Far from it, to be honest. I seen it with my own eyes, more negative than positive. She could be quite snappy with, members of the public when they would ask a question, and she would be quite rude with her answers. And also with admin, she would be rude to them and, belittle them. I remember that one time with a previous admin who was answering, a member's question, and, Sandra, corrected her. And she actually ended up that Sandra was the one in the wrong, and I don't think that previous admin ever got an apology for it. But yeah, it was a case that you were on eggshells round her. Some days she would be kind of cheery, other days she was not so cheery. But yeah, as I said, she didn't bother with me. We only created a post as long as we were there to monitor the comments for it. And when it came to accepting a post, it was only admin that could accept the post. Moderators weren't allowed. So yeah, I did make the mistake once of accepting a post, and it wasn't a bad post, it wouldn't have caused any arguments or, all hell break loose. But this admin, she's still a current admin, and was always nasty and cheeky. And she made sure that I was well aware that I was a moderator and I shouldn't be accepting posts, and I was never again to accept another post. And I just kind of laughed to myself and thought, oh, whatever. So yeah, leaving the group, it was a huge weight had been lifted. The only way I can compare it to is to say it was definitely like leaving a cult. It really is the only way to sum it up. It had all the traits of, being in a cult, and you definitely know who the cult leader is and still is. But for us to break away, it was great, and I can honestly, hand on my heart, say that the people who left all at the same time, I'll be friends with them for the rest of my life. I hold each of them very close to my heart. You couldn't meet a bunch of more kind, funny and sweet and hard-working group of people. And it is like you don't realise that you're being, that you're like a puppet and somebody's pulling all the strings, and so to cut away the string and to leave was great. There was an incident near the end of my time in the group, and I think that it was the last straw, and it was a current admin made a wee snidey comment, basically saying, "Oh, Cheryl, in our graphics, and well done, Cheryl, for doing your graphics." And it hurt because I really was proud of all the graphics I made, and I mean, hundreds of logos and headers, and as I said, seeing people wear them on, getting them printed onto jumpers for protests, and I was really proud of my wee project, and for that current admin to make that wee snidey remark really got to me. And it wasn't like that I was so sad that I wanted to cry. I wanted her to be standing in front of me to say it to my face. I would have loved for her to be standing in front of me to say it to my face. Because I was and I still am, a full-time carer to my husband, who's got severe relapsing remitting MS and is in a wheelchair. So I think, for somebody, and she knew this, so to make that comment, knowing that, I was taking time away from my husband to help the group and to help Luke as well, I was doing this for the group, but it was also time away from my husband, and staying up to stupid o'clock in the morning just to finish off these logos to help Luke. And for her to say that, I thought, enough's enough. I can't be around somebody like that. And she said it in the group chat, so there was other people there that seen it, and it was a low blow, but again, I would have loved for her to say it to my face. Just shows you, the type of person that she is. Just a daft muppet, really. So yeah, but leaving the group was the best thing I done, because I couldn't be around that cult-like atmosphere anymore. I dedicated a lot of my time to the group. You know, during the day, you were constantly keeping an eye on comments, you know, in case, you know, somebody wrote something and all hell broke loose and it would start an argument. So you were always having to, you know, keep an eye on things. But my main passion was making graphics and just to get Luke's name out there and to get people's attention. So, you know, the bigger the logo, the brighter the colours, you know, certain quotes, you know, just to grab people's attention. And, you know, we would have like the group's kind of details to, you know, for a link for people to click on, and then they could join the group. So I did that, but it was really hard. You know, it wasn't just like get on to some silly wee app and, you know, just throwing things together. You know, you had to get the sizes perfect. You know, you were making like logos and graphics for not only Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. So every, you know, social media app, the sizes were different for logos, headers. So it took a lot of time. There were some nights I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, just doing logos. And some of them logos, you know, I see people wearing on hoodies for protests, and you know, it makes you feel good knowing that I created that. So yeah, I dedicated a lot of my time to the group.
I take back what I said about putting too many comments in here, because after listening back to this, to do these little bits and edits, I have thoughts here. Like I said, these stories, none of them are positive, but this one kind of boils my piss in more ways than one. This story in itself really does show in full view the abuse and usage of people for Sandra Lean to harvest donations. All these people who are taking time out of their day to get involved in what they thought was a miscarriage of justice, but is basically just a set of tasks and delegation for people who can do things in the background while Sandra Lean occasionally pops on YouTube for the update. That's, I mean, people, I know what will come from a lot of this, and I'm sure the ladies that are speaking today all know as well. People will attack their character and not actually be able to really hammer down or argue the point of what they're speaking about. So let's just get that out of the way. All your nasty little comments and whatnot that'll come. And you know what, actually, I'll put this here before it's forgotten and before it's just something that you know, I'm taking for granted and not saying. Quite obvious by the way that we're behaving today and the things that we're letting people hear, that if, you know, this bullying is to continue with the people that have nothing to do with this and are innocent people who, at the end of the day, I don't agree with, but they are still Luke Mitchell supporters, then that's on you. That's on your character. And I'm sure if worst comes to worst and there's threats and everything else made, well, like Billy the Kid said,
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
So, with that in mind, let's hear from our last speaker today. And I'll kind of, I have more to say, but I honestly, we should really get on with this, and I'll just kind of do it at the end. I think give these guys a chance to speak rather than me rant for another 30 minutes. Let's hear from our last guest today, our last speaker, our last ex-admin. And as always, I will see you on the other side.
I remember back in 2003, every time you went into a shop, it was all the headlines. I've seen bits on the news. But to be perfectly honest, as a busy working mother, I didn't have time to take in all the facts of the case. I do remember seeing headlines saying that they had charged the boyfriend with the murder and feeling really happy at the fact that they had found the killer. The next thing I really remember paying any attention to was when I seen that both Luke and his mother Corinne had passed lie detector tests with flying colours. To pass with flying colours, that made me think, to me, that points to an innocent person. Then when Murder in a Small Town was to be aired, I told my sister all my thoughts and concerns on the case, and we watched Murder in a Small Town. There was just so many questions after it. That's when we really started to dig into the case to find out as much information as we possibly could. It was after watching Murder in a Small Town, we joined every single Facebook group that we could find regarding the case, and it didn't take that long really to find that there was one main group, and that was the official group. They seemed to have a lot more information posts based on the case. And then with all the reading that we had done, when other members were asking questions, we were answering them. And I think the creator of the group, Sharon, noticed that, and she approached us to ask would me and my sister like to become moderators on the group. I was that engrossed in digging in to find as much information as possible. You're lucky if I slept for 3 or 4 hours a night. As moderators, you were to accept posts and comments and accept or decline new members that was looking to join the group. We made posts, we done quizzes, all based on the case, to interact with members, generally keep a close eye for any trolls that were trying to join or cause bother on the group. The way Sandra treated us depended wholly on what version of Sandra was present at that particular point in time. She could be impressed with the things that you were able to find out, and she'd make you feel like a valued member of the team, or very dismissive towards you, ignore you if you dare to ask a question that she didn't want asked or didn't want to answer. And the way she'd tell you something in a certain way, the words that she used, how she'd say it, and then follow it up with make of that as you will. I mean, she knows exactly what you're going to make of that, because the way she's told you it leads your mind on that path. So she knows exactly what she's doing. She's leading your mind to where she wants it to be. That is very manipulative, and that took me a wee while to find, not to find out, to realise what she was doing. But if you pay attention, you will see it in a lot of your lives as well. She does things like that. She'll tell you a wee bit of something, then it's make of that as you will. Don't find well that she's already put you onto the path that she wants you to be on. And the way I felt so let down when I realised that the day of the petition being handed over, she already knew the evidence had been destroyed, and she stood there and she lied to all Luke's loyal supporters. And I think that is terrible. He has got thousands and thousands of loyal supporters who deserve better than the lies and the manipulation that they're getting. And the way she allows two of our long-standing current admins to treat and speak to other people is absolutely shocking. It's disgraceful. We did have rules and instructions, such as don't let new members on that's Facebooks are less than 6 months old, or if they don't have a profile picture, don't let anything on that is classed as an advertisement of some sort, or anything to do with any other cases. And to be careful how you word things in posts, and if anyone's posting things, to read through them first, make sure that none of Luke's family is mentioned, or certain other things that gets filtered in for Sandra. I always felt a bit anxious because we were always told to be careful, don't allow anything that might affect Luke's case in a detrimental way. So I was a bit apprehensive for fear he'd done something wrong that could damage the case. Only one or two that was allowed to make mistakes without being pulled up with Sandra, and none of them were the ones that actually done any real work in the group. The only work they done was their dominant hand. That's the hand they used to stick the knife in the other admin's backs. Since leaving the group, I do feel less anxious and a lot more relaxed. And even though the biggest majority of moderators and admins had left, we never stopped working to help Luke. We were still making posts and posting them on all the other groups and still pushing the petition, etc. We just kept doing the work that we had been doing beforehand. And we took nothing to do with the ones that were still in the official group that were associated with the hijack. Then all of a sudden, all the other groups stopped accepting our posts. Then we were all booted off the groups. And it took us a wee while to find out exactly what was going on. Once we had spoke to some of the admins for different groups, to find out that two of the longer running admins that were involved in the hijacking that are still there with Sandra were telling everybody not to accept anything that we do, that we are trolls, that we're backstabbers, that we are doing everything we can to throw as much damage as possible towards Luke's case. Lot of crap. They'll say anything to try and make the people who were doing the work look bad. And you look at the page now, and it is really sad to see a group that's sharing built for nothing into one of the biggest Facebook groups, or the biggest Facebook group regarding the case. And you look at it now, and it's like an old western town, nothing but tumbleweed. The main reason I left the group was because I wasn't too happy with being told to be quiet, to lie, to keep secrets, not to tell the other three admin on the team what's happening, as Sandra and two of our current admin were planning on hijacking them. And myself and my sister didn't agree with how they were doing things. It was so wrong. I thought we all got along, but obviously I was wrong, or they wouldn't have treated us the way they did. There was no infighting, but plenty bullying coming from one current admin. You know the one that was Luke's girlfriend at the time of his trial. When we didn't do as she was telling us to do, the torrent of abuse received from her was disgusting. Because we wouldn't stand back and allow three admin to be hijacked without any warning. She did say Sandra was going to drop a bombshell, unsure how high she was dropping it for, as that was over a year ago and it's still no landed yet. something that always annoys me a wee bit. Sandra keeps saying that she's been working on Luke's case for 20 years. That's yet another lie. She was basically told to go after a disagreement with Corinne and Luke in 2014, which is when she wrote the book. She appeared back after the book was written in 2018. But you kind of think back now and it's like, did she really come back to help fight for Luke? Or did she come back to help raise sales for a book? Make of that as you will. On a couple of Sandra's lies, she said that all money raised from the sales of the book would go to Luke's fight fund. Then it changed, and it was going to be going to a new group that she was setting up called A Long Road to Justice. Then surprise, surprise, it changed again. £5 from the sale of every book would go directly to Luke's fight fund. There should be a lot of money in an account somewhere. But any time anyone asked Sandra about the money, she'd put her hands up and say, I have nothing to do with any money raised. Kind of taking herself away from the money side of things. So who is in charge? Where is the money? Is whoever is in charge keeping books? Do they know how much has been raised for the sales of books, sales of raffle tickets, sales of hoodies and t-shirts? And a list of what has been spent, how much, on what? Did they keep receipts for any money that's been used? Nothing like that has ever been spoken about. That's something that is hid under the carpet and nobody seems to be allowed to know. Thinking back, there was a time when I'm sure it was the Miscarriage of Justice did a collection for Sandra to help her with finances, and she did say that it was used, money raised that was given to her was to help with bills for electricity and things because of the amount of work she does in the computer and all that sort of stuff, using electricity and things like that. This is how it was explained to us, and everybody was basically asked to, would they like to donate money to help her. And I think at the time I did think about it, but thinking back now, at the same time as that was going on, there was a hutch load of money sitting somewhere that's been raised for her to help Luke. But on top of that, for somebody who had no money and was having to have people donate to her, how did she manage to totally strip back her bus? Because she stripped back her bus and rebuilt it. Redone it all. That would have taken thousands of pounds. And I mean thousands. Even doing the work herself, that was going to cost a load of money for materials. Where did she get the money for the materials? That annoys me the way everybody badmouths admin and moderators that left the group. They tried to say there was a lot of infighting and that we're all trolls, we all turned against Luke and all that sort of stuff to make us out to be bad. Yet not one of us ever said that we didn't support Luke. None of us said that we had changed our mind or anything on how we seen the case or how we thought about the case. We stopped supporting Sandra when we realised just how many lies she had fed us. Lies and half-truths. So it doesn't look too bad. Like she's drummed into us all that Janine and Stephen Kelly said that the dog didn't react. No emotions for Luke. all the sort of things that's been drummed into our heads for long enough. But when you read their transcripts, that's one of Sandra's half-truths. Because technically, they were saying that on the stand. But when it was put to them that their original statements says that Mia jumped up at the wall, Mia was a big dog, all that sort of stuff, and that, you know, Luke had eyes like saucers, he looked shocked, pale, and both of them actually stated that if that is what they said in their original story, their original statement, then that must be the truth. But Sandra tell you the first bit of what they are say, but she doesn't tell you that they agreed that all that was the truth. So she's good at doing that. She tells you half-truths. On a video call with Sandra and the admins, myself and my sister were the only two moderators, I think, in the call. When Sandra told us that all the evidence obstructions were all being moved, she had been notified to tell her that it had been moved. And we were all a bit, oh no. And I actually asked her, is it going to be safe? You know, is it in a secure place that nobody can get to? If anybody tries to get into it, will you be notified? And she says, oh yes, definitely. She says, no one can get near it. The minute anybody tries to touch it or go near it, I will be notified straight away. And I thought, right, that's fine, that's okay then. We know it's safe. And then she stands, when the petition was going on, telling everybody that we want it or released to be retested. And lo and behold, she was standing there lying through her teeth because she already knew that the biggest majority it was destroyed. That sickens me. That really, really pees me off. Because when she was telling us where it was going, she wouldn't tell us where it was being moved to. Because she liked to have that wee nugget information that she didn't tell you that made her feel that wee bit more important. Because if she had said it was being moved to Livingston Police Station, then we could have told her to get something in place to make sure they can't touch it. Because Livingston Police Station is where a lot of stuff goes to be destroyed, and a furnace that is in walking distance for the police station. Now, wadsy people in this or around this area all know that. And in my head, because she wanted that one wee nugget of information to make herself feel better, more knowledgeable than anybody else, to me, that's why that stuff was destroyed. Because she never said where it was being moved to. You know, if she'd actually just turned around and says that night, they're moving it to Livingston, then we could have, got lawyers involved, we could have got a stop put on it. But no. She wanted a wee bit of nugget of information that nobody else knew about. And because of that, the biggest majority of the stuff was destroyed. That makes me sick. And another thing regarding all the production being destroyed, I have to praise Scott Forbes for this one, because it was Scott Forbes that stopped everything from getting destroyed, or there wouldn't have been a single thing left. There isn't a great deal left, but even that, what is there wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Scott Forbes. Because the whistleblower that had been sort of informing Sandra, according to Scott, for what he's been putting on, I've seen him put things up on Twitter and what have you, and according to Scott, the whistleblower had been trying to get a hold of Sandra and was basically being ignored, didn't reply to anything. And the whistleblower then contacted Scott and asked him, could they meet up for a cuppa and a chat? And as soon as he found out what was going on, he got in and put a stop to it. So, praise where praise is due. If it wasn't for Scott, there wouldn't have been nothing at all. And then that also makes you think, why did she do nothing? And then you think, well, she's made my mind a bad mind. I think I can see the bad side of everything now. Whereas before I used to just be one of the, could only see the, you know, the nice things and nice sides of people. But now I see the bad sides of everything. And I kind of think, did she not want the stuff saved? And if so, what was her reasoning? And then I think, Sandra's the sort of person that really, really holds a grudge. She doesn't let it go. So is she still holding a grudge against Luke and his mum for putting her out in 2014? Even though they let her come back in 2018. I wouldn't put it past her still to be holding a grudge or that. And if so, is all these things that's happening that's damaged Luke's case, that can all be kind of traced back to something that has been done or said by Sandra? Was it intentional? Is she still holding a grudge? It really makes you wonder. Because if she wasn't, then why would she be doing all the things that she's doing? That kind of makes sense.
So there we go. That's all three speakers, guests, however you want to put it. We don't usually do other people on this, so it's a bit odd. But there we go. And although there are a couple of things, as I say, I don't agree with, well, namely the Scott Forbes getting some form of credit there, actually, that's probably one. But in the interest of being fair and reasonable, because I am going to rip the piss out of him for about 10 minutes whilst I'll wrap all of this up. So even, acknowledging the fact that these guys think Luke Mitchell is still innocent after all this, but obviously just kind of excommunicated from the group for having a disagreement with Sandra. We can see the repeated behaviours. Obviously each story kind of has a similar theme running through it, and that's what we really need to focus in on. The using people for what they're good for, having this delegation. We saw from Cheryl obviously taking time away from her husband. Again, just to go back to that, it boils my piss in the respect that she did comment on the fact, a lot of them did, that there was, the interaction wasn't all the time, but not really checking in. For someone who gives this exudes empathy, understanding, caring, and the sense of belonging, for then to essentially ignore what looks like underlings, as I say again, just so they can do all the legwork, and then you can sit back and reap the benefits, all the donations, book sales, whatever comes from it. There's no kind of appearance fee, I can't imagine, for any YouTube, but that does boost everything else. It's just viral marketing, really, isn't it? And it was a grift. Now, in the time that we've been editing this, it has been confirmed to me that Sandra Lean is no longer a part of the kind of support groups or whatnot on Facebook. Now obviously that doesn't mean that she has stepped away from the case entirely. I can't confirm that at this point, but the reality of the matter is, where then does all these donations and everything else go then? Is it still going to Sandra Lean, who isn't involved with the case, or is it going to the new campaign leader, if we can call it that? I have no idea in that respect, but I would imagine that the next logical kind of step up, isn't it? Being Gemma. Now, again, just in case you forgot, because it was quite a while ago, let's listen to Gemma's welcoming, caring, empathetic, belonging attitude one more time.
Because Sandra deserves to have a word after being outright abused by Sharon and our minion lapdog Steph and our fucking bum chum Matt, who has obviously been fed the same lies, and it's disgusting. And I will always stand by Luke, and I will stand by Sandra, and I will mow down any fucker that tries to sabotage what Sandra and Scott are trying to do for my friend Luke.
And that's the person that'll now be, leading the campaign, running the admin groups, collecting money, or just ignoring the fact that someone else is getting money. Who knows? But let's quickly, just as we wrap up, focus on what is the new civil war. Now, what I'll say as well, and I'll put up front here, I do believe, and I find it hard to believe that, and you won't agree with me, that professionals should act in a professional manner. Now, the fact of the matter is, I don't think they've ever done it. I think Scott's behaviour on podcasts is, he's broke the law a couple of times. He's broke the law on Twitter as well. He's said some hideous shit about people. And, you know, also his little minions as well. Sandra, again, skirts the line, tries to act diplomatic, but is one of these, like Inception, puts it in your head. Like one of our speakers said, take from that what you will. So the campaign as well should be led by level-headed people, and as we can see from Gemma, that doesn't seem to be the case. But I just want to point out the new war, which is between Scott and Gemma. So let's just look at a couple of tweets or posts, on Facebook from the Luke Mitchell support group. Scott Forbes was never Luke's lawyer. He worked in a legal firm who took Luke's case years ago, and he assisted criminologist Sandra Lean in the background with research. Research which, that's supposed to be, legal team would have done but didn't. I can also look up the exact dates for you, but Scott does not work in an official capacity on this case. He had done great, as his book highlighted a lot of interesting things going on in the community and the periphery of the case, and highlighted info that was overlooked at trial, but a lot of his book is opinion, like he states in his book. I mean, it's not like confined to that. Here's another one. Yes, around the time he worked for a legal team that took on the Luke's case, he trained as a lawyer and continues to throw that title around. A tad, sorry. But in fact, he was never a fully practicing lawyer. He likes to do that and doesn't correct anyone who makes the mistake. It's almost all the podcasts he does. So to confirm, Scott is not a lawyer, and definitely not Luke Mitchell's lawyer. Never was his lawyer. And quotation marks there. A nice quick snappy one. He didn't complete his 2-year traineeship and was not signed off as a lawyer. And one more, why not? Scott Forbes was never Luke's lawyer. Like I said, he worked alongside a legal team. Currently, yes, he is doing more harm than good. That cuts deep, Scott, doesn't it? The knife found in the skip is true, and there are statements from those who found it. I'm not getting into that right now, it's not fucking true. Scott has tried his best to highlight this case and recognise there was a miscarriage of justice. This must be recognised, but a lot of what he says must be taken with a pinch of salt at this point. As long as he is enjoying himself and all the attention he gets on podcasts and Twitter, then so be it. But he is not a lawyer. He does not work on Luke's case. Luke is concerned about a lot of the things Scott rants and raves also. So you're not alone in noticing the damage he is, because for his 5 minutes of fame, which again really annoyed Scott. It did. It really annoyed Scott. Scott's been on a tirade, and I suppose you could go through some of them. Can I find any just now? Bear with me 2 seconds, rather than just... Yes, right, well here's one. Right, here we go. So Scott, what I will say is Luke Mitchell is now led by a hairdresser and a physiotherapist, which relates to Gemma, that are lying to his group and followers. A physiotherapist is now the legal eagle who's going to free him. If it was not suspect, I'd be laughing. Well, I'm laughing. Or what about this one? After Channel 5 massive momentum, top QC involved, forensic team, etc., now Luke Mitchell, LM, has a hairdresser and they're supposed to be psycho physio as his legal team. They are lying to the public, RE samples, and needing money to test them. This is just a falsehood. Mitchell was on the CATC prison getting day releases. whatever, just rambles off there. It's kind of like Joe Biden anyway. But what about this one? Attention seeking, min of fame. Min of fame, just getting a minute of fame. Unfortunately, Gemma's not giving you 15 minutes. You gave him 5 at least. 2005, disappeared after that, abandoning Mitchell. Then after Channel 5 2021, came back claiming to be an expert, and now with legal papers and in-house and sharing them, which apparently Gemma is doing, which I will say right now, if Gemma, if one of your wee minions or you actually hear this, you better stop sharing things that you're not supposed to be sharing, buddy. I'm not going to share anything here or even go as far as looking to confirm what you're doing, but if you are sharing what Scott says is precognitions and people's interviews, you better stop that, because it's highly illegal. But none of you guys actually done any kind of studying, so you probably better speaking to a legal expert. But as you know, that's not Scott. He said it in your own words. He was never a lawyer. He was never signed off of his 2-year traineeship. Again, can I just ask, how was he propped up by all the Luke Mitchell groups if he wasn't a professional lawyer? Could it be that you were propping up a grifter, a liar? Could that be the case? That's a bit strange. It's almost like you've kind of admitted the quiet part out loud without having to say it. It's almost like Sandra was lying from the start and now you've took over the lie. But there is a problem here, and I kind of direct this towards Gemma, I suppose, and to a certain extent Scott, who's looking to take over this grift. You guys are clowns, and you think that if you as a clown walks into a castle, you'll become a king. But unfortunately, this kingdom has turned into a circus, and you're the head clown. So whatever one wants to take up the moniker, go for it. The Sandra Lean has ran away, so I suppose there's a throne there. But the reality is your lies are coming out more and more with the transcripts. And the last thing I do want to talk about is just one part of that. But one thing I would say actually, which I hate to hammer a point and be like Russell, what's his name? Russell Howard? I can't remember the comedian's name. He just hammers fucking quick. As soon as he gets a joke, he gets a punchline, he just hits it like fucking 5 times in the same show. But I do want to listen to one little bit of Gemma's rant there again. Can we go back?
And I will mow down any fucker that tries to sabotage what Sandra and Scott are trying to do for my friend Luke.
So willing to mow down any fucker who destroys what Scott Forbes and Sandra Lean are trying to do for our friend Luke. Well, Sandra Lean was destroyed by all the antics and all the lies, and you are actively trying to destroy Scott Forbes with what you're saying about him online. So go make that make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I wish there was sense. Where did all this sense go?
So the last thing I want to talk about is actually a wee bit, well, I suppose a little admittance as well. I knew something that was coming in terms of evidence and, you know, new information. So what I done was I baited Scott Forbes, and I know how to do it. So I started speaking to a couple of minions of his on Twitter who are unhinged ghouls, man, like totally fucking dead behind the eyes, and like basically kind of put a little bit bait out there talking about the arterial spray that was found at the scene where Jodie Jones' body was found, on the wall that separated the pathway from the wooded area where she was found. So I kind of knew what was coming, and what I done was I essentially, as I say, put out there that Scott had said something in a 5-0 video. So rather than me put words in his mouth, let's put that clip up here.
Finds any struggle? None. There's no pools of blood. The only blood here, and the only reason I know this is for crime scene photographs. The crime scene photographs were taken before they destroyed this crime scene, and I'll explain why. The only blood I've seen here, 500 millimetres from the ground, over this height, there's a line of trickly blood, and I mean a line, and they tell you it's not arterial spray, in other words, there's no gush. Right. So how did blood get on the wall? And Jodie's lying over there, but how did blood get here? It's impossible. Me personally, I think Jodie's been carried down here, and as the person's come round there, the head, her head being a height, that's the only explanation I can come up.
And what I essentially done was verbatim wrote that word for word, well that's what fucking verbatim is, shut up, and put that on Twitter and kind of left it out there, and it eventually got back, and essentially Scott started arguing with me to the point where he put up a post where he says, I mean, in these houses today, I'll visit the locus and film where the line of blood was. No pool of blood on the ground, nothing. Zittel thought that the line could be if she had her throat cut while on her knees, then moved to where she was found. A chili beef server isn't qualified to grasp this because Scott believes that I serve chili beef for some reason. What the fuck is chili beef? Doesn't sound nice. Anyway, and obviously he gone on to say there was no arterial spray where Jodie was found. There was a line of blood on the wall approximately 500 millimetres from the ground and 7 metres from where she was lying. They talk of Luke Mitchell group being unqualified. They are correct, except for Sandra Lean, who has a PhD. They have experience in delivering food, apparently. Fucking whatever. This guy is a fucking moron. Then they actually did visit the scene. I'll put that up as well. So contrary to the chili beef expert, here we go, Kay Jones, which I think is supposed to be Joseph Jones' wife, I think. He's a fucking, honestly, this guy is unhinged. What they found, I've addressed the photo data. Wait, he meant phone data there. I'll correct that for him. And I've never altered from any pathologist reports. There is no arterial spray where Jodie was found. A line of blood, approximately 1 metre long and 500 millimetres from the ground. The blood on the wall, from Jodie, whatever. And then there's a photo there, which proves fucking what? He went to a wall 20 years after the fact, took a picture of a wall, then went home, got it on Microsoft Paint and put a red fucking line on the wall. What does that show me? What does that prove? What is that? Now, spoilers, Scott would go on to actually put crime scene photos up, which I'm not going to share on here right now because I don't know about the legality of it, and I'm not entirely sure if I want to do that for anybody that's potentially watching this from the Dalkeith area that could trigger any kind of feelings. But essentially, he did put up because this is what I mean, he's fucking unhinged, and to argue with me on Twitter vicariously through his mates, with the same vibes, by the way, and I will say, and I did put it up on Twitter, I'll crack the joke again, it is the same vibes as when Donald Trump drew a Sharpie for the where he thought the fallout area for the storm was going to be. It's the same energy. Like, what does this red line show me? What does it show me? So I will say, actually, just before we move on, the phone data, I've done a little short video about that, but essentially Luke Mitchell had said to the police that he deleted his own phone data for fear of wanting to make an outbound call. He deleted text messages, he deleted prior phone calls. This came out under his own police questionnaire. So I made a short video pointing out that Scott said that it was the police who had deleted it to fit their own narrative, which he said to 5-0. And then we get a post from Scott. They are bonkers. Police kept asking Luke Mitchell about what he deleted from his phone. If memory serves me correctly, 2 texts from earlier. All phone data was lost after phone was opened in unsecure room. Fetus soon after opened such a secure room. What is he talking about? What the hell is he talking about?
I think I can smell shite.
I mean, it's absolute nonsense. That's not what happened. Luke deleted his own phone data. Stop trying to change Luke Mitchell's own words as well as everyone else's. But the reality is, this, as I say, and let's hammer the point, unhinged fucking ghoul of a man who's pretending to be a lawyer and now arguing with a physiotherapist who's sending abusive messages to people. These aren't the people that should be leading a miscarriage of justice campaign. These guys are grifters. These guys are cons. And Sandra Lean was the catalyst for them all. What she done was she let a genie out of the bottle, and now it's fucked. So she's had to run away. Sandra Lean needs to say something at the end of the day. These people here as well, the people that we spoke to today, they are the people that have the lived experience of this. And if you're going to ignore their own opinion so you can follow these people, then God help you. But this is the harsh reality, though, isn't it? This is what the campaign has always been. Sandra Lean could have stepped to the side before this video came out, but the reality is she laid the groundwork and set the precedent for how this is happening, how all this goes on. She might have been sly, she might have had this kind of diplomatic view, but she unleashed attack dogs that eventually took her out. That was it. It came from the inside, didn't it?
Listen to me. We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. You hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
However, the reality of the matter is that Sandra made a toxic environment where bullying and elitism was accepted. This whole idea that people were of a certain level, you can't accept posts, you can't write a post, only we can write posts. It's just all being self-serving and people being self-important, thinking that they can take advantage of those who had a genuine interest and a genuine want to help Luke Mitchell. As much as I might not agree with a lot of the things I've said, they had a desire to get involved and make a difference. Sandra Lean took advantage of that, and she has done for years with all the people that have bought her books and tuned into her fucking lives on YouTube, which were all a big waste of time with her pseudoscience and her absolute nonsense, which just came out in the transcripts. She can't run from it, so she's hiding from it. That's the reality. As soon as this all started coming out, as soon as the transcripts started coming out, the update stopped. Did anybody think there was a reason for that? Because there was too many questions getting asked. And our guests today have also pointed out the fact that this whole thing was policed. All the groups, all the comments, everything's policed. You can't say anything that's out of place. Well, you certainly can't bring up Luke's family, but it's okay to talk about Jodie Jones' family. That's fine, because Sandra has allowed people to do that. As much as she says she doesn't want people blamed, she does it all the fucking time. So let's not get our wires crossed by that one. You're just a liar there. And again, that's one thing, lying. Like the guy says, she's lying to the people outside of the campaign, but she's telling the truth to those behind the scenes, which again is just stupid, really, in all honesty. If you're going, you might as well lie to everyone. But and then she would be happy one day, unhappy the next day. She's bipolar. She's a bipolar liar, really. She's a bipolar liar. That's what she is, bipolar. And that it comes through. It really does come through. If you really want to sit and look at her updates, she's fucking manic, man. Like, honestly, another one that's unhinged. But that's bipolar. So at the end of the day, she's brought in this whole kind of cult of personality around Luke Mitchell, and this whole standard way of behaving and accepted behaviour. That's why you get people like the goons on X and whatnot that post all Scots crap. But the reality is, somebody has to pick a side here. I told you all before. I told you months ago this Lord of the Flies shit would happen, and here we are. Now, Sandra's ran away. You've got Scott on one side who's saying that the campaign is run by people who are lying and trying to gain and raise money off the back of lies. Now remember, he's promoted that from the start, so he always knew that was a lie then. But anyway, let's forget that part. Let's focus on the fact that he's calling them liars. Let's focus on the fact that they're calling him unprofessional, fake lawyer, like I have done for the start. Again, I have done this for the start. Why are people just admitting it now? And you're going to have to pick a side. if you are going to believe one of these two, you have to believe one and not the other. They can't be together at the end of the day. So what's it to be? The reality is the campaign was run by fraudsters, carnies, charlatans, and just vile people who are wanting their own 15 minutes of fame, guys. Not 1 minute, not 5 minutes, 15 fucking minutes. And now it's all come crumbling down.
I'm in business alone, and that means that the only person that I can't trust is myself.
The group's falling apart. The admins are coming out and speaking about the situation and what they've had to put up with, and there is no answer other than calling people trolls or accusing them of actually being involved in the murder. That's a fucking thing, by the way. That is an actual thing that happened. So these guys are goons, unhinged ghouls, and they are out for, they're clout vampires, said it before, and they're starting to get found out. The reality is, though, all this stuff needs to be pointed out more. So one thing I will do is put a link to a blog in the comments which goes into a little bit about the arterial spray found at the scene, and it will speak to the two experts who gave evidence about it, proving once again that Scott Forbes is a liar, and now he's just flailing, swinging for the fences and hoping that he can cover his own ass. But the reality is he's only got to cover his own ass with certain people. I've always said from the start, which is why I had these people on as well, stealing it from James O'Brien, not my saying. But you have to have contempt for the con man and compassion for the conned. But the reality is, in this situation, there is a fine line between you being conned and becoming the con man. And Scott's minions are definitely con men. They're quite happy and have admitted to me that they're quite happy to admit ignore the evidence, and go based off fucking nothing but pure vibes about how they feel and the fact that the experts got everything wrong, which I think shows as well that the fringes are always going to be insane. And we'll go back to my first video where I said they were passionate, because I wanted to put it nicely. Unhinged is definitely the word that I'm saying now, and these unhinged fringe players are even arguing with other Luke Mitchell supporters. The thing is, these guys have to be outed. I'm sorry to say to anyone who's still of the faith that Scott Forbes is going to do anything for people, or Gemma Chapman indeed is going to do anything for people. They're not. They've got questions to answer and they're not going to answer them. What you will find is they'll disappear and everybody else will just keep on spreading their shit. It's like the Hempstead hoax, where the couple spread the rumour that there were Satanists abusing kids and stuff. People made those parents' lives hell, and the two people that actually, ran the hoax or started the hoax got away relatively scot-free, which is what will happen probably to Sandra Lee and Scott Forbes, because there is no way to really punish them for the defamation and the problems that they've caused with any of this, and they know that, because they're sly, sneaky little fuckers, really, to be honest, and that's just the way they're built. So they know they can keep on going and going and going and going, and no one will be able to do anything about it. You can't take that back as well. It's already out there. The reality is, when people read a story, they very rarely go back to the corrections a week later to find out if what they'd learned was true or it had been verified. And nothing is getting verified by Scott Forbes. I will say, just before I clock off and wrap up, that the arterial spray as well, just to quickly go back to that, there was someone online who did satirise the photo, brighten it up a little bit and prove that there was a lot of blood at the scene. Might not have been everything that was needed in terms of what they're looking for their 6 litres of blood, apparently, even though that's not fucking possible, but there was a lot of blood there. Again, maybe in future we'll go into that, but it's something that I'm really going to wrestle with in my head, because I don't know if that's just, I think, a bit crass maybe, for want of a better description, but you never know. But the reality is, and I will say again one more time in case people weren't paying attention, one more for the cheap seats, the bullying has to stop. The attacks on people has to stop. these guys especially are still of the view that Luke Mitchell's innocent. So blowback on this is ridiculous and shows you for the evil piece of shit that you are. And again, if there's any real blowback,
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
I want to thank the ladies for taking the time to speak and to share their story. And what I would ask, guys, is when I normally do a wrap up, I ask you for a wee sarcastic thumbs up. But the sarcastic thumbs up isn't for me today, and I do genuinely mean this. Could you guys give a little thumbs up for the ladies that had the courage to come out and speak about this and share their story with us today? That'd be fantastic, and I really mean that. If you could give a wee thumbs up for the ladies, maybe even a wee comment, just to let them know that obviously you appreciate the fact that they're willing to share their story. I agree with a lot of things that have been said as well in terms of the money. I think that questions need answered. Where's the money going? Who's in charge of it now? The reality is Sandra will still be making the profits from her book. The £5 it was to go at the fighting fund, just so you know the way Amazon works, £5 is basically the only profit she would make off the book, so I imagine that she didn't want to give that away because then she'd get no money from it. But maybe that's for another day. As with everything else, I've got a lot more things that I could say, but given the fact that we're well over an hour by now, let's just leave it at that, shall we? Let's do a wrap up. So there we go, guys. What do you think? I mean, at the end of the day, what's your opinion on the environment, I think is the nicest way I can put, that Sandra Lean has bred within her little cult? And again, not my words of the people that were involved. Do you think that it'll improve any with the exit of Sandra Lean and the promotion of Gemma Chapman? Or do you think, like me, that somebody that is willing to
mow down any fucker
is probably not the best person to be leading a campaign that's been led by a liar and a bully beforehand? Out the frying pan into the fire, as far as I'm concerned. What do you think about the Scott subject? The fact that they're at war with each other. How can it be possible that Scott was a professional that was helping Luke, but he's never passed his legal qualifications, he's never been a lawyer, and what do you think of Scott accusing Gemma of lying to Luke Mitchell's supporters for money? That sounds, I'm sure I've heard that song before. I think I used to sing it about Sandra, actually. It's strange that the two of you are agreeing with me now, because what, you're using my talking points to take down each other? Both are true. So what do you guys think of that? Also, as I say, we thanks to the ladies for taking the time to talk to us today. That has been appreciated. I do feel that the treatment that they've had is ridiculous. I have said these things about Sandra Lean, so I'm not going to say that I told you so too much, but at the end of the day, I do believe that this was coming, and that's why I predicted it. However, it's still not good when it does, and it's definitely, I mean, it's one of the I told you so's where I don't like it too much, because at the end of the day, people have been affected. You heard that obviously our last speaker saying that, you know, that's affected the way they see people going forward, and I think that'll be the case for all three of them at the end of the day. Cheryl, who had done a lot of the logos and whatnot, will be proud to a certain extent where she sees these things being worn about if people are at protest, but at the same time that's going to bring home the treatment that she had for those things to exist. I fully agree with a lot of the questions that they have over Sandra's, as I say, financial things or motives even. And yeah, I'd like to hear what you guys think. Again, be nice in the comments. At the end of the day, these people have taken time and they've had the courage to come and speak to someone who is, well, vehemently against the campaign. So come on, hats off. At the end of the day, Scott Forbes and Sandra Lean and Gemma Chapman, none of them have had the fucking balls to do it. Every single one of them have fucking hid from me. Yes. So the fact that these people have come forward, I think deserves a little bit more credit than the fake ass lawyer and the fake criminologist. The little criminologist who couldn't. The bipolar criminologist. But yes, detective, lawyer and bipolar criminologist aside, thank you for listening to this. Thank you for taking the time to listen to these ladies' stories and my little rant at the end. A little rant, fucking hell. And yes, follow us on X. I do need to get back to Facebook. I keep saying it, but I just don't fucking do it. But follow us on X. Give us a wee subscribe as well, because we'll have more coming soon. We've also got part 3 and 4 of Killin Mitchell's testimony for transcribed coming soon. I've got another couple of updates as well for other stuff that's happened. Let's put it this way, I put out some more bait, and Scott Forbes bit like a champ. So I will go into that at some point as well. So as I say, give us a wee subscribe if you want to keep up to that. Obviously, little sarcastic thumbs up, but today it's for the ladies. So let's collect some likes for these ladies and their courage. And I do fully get behind that. I think they've been very brave doing this. And ladies, if you don't mind me saying, you absolutely fucking smashed it. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you very much. But yes, as I say, leave a little thumbs up, wee sarcastic thumbs up. Obviously, leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this whole fucking charade of this empathetic, caring family, when in reality it's just a money finding fucking mission. That's all it is. Really is. Just raising money. For what? For the van? Who knows? I'll leave that up to you. But leave a little comment. Let us know what you think. Of course, do not be a Derek. And enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Purple elephants, don't try, you'll become irrelevant. You can't train a purple elephant, give it a name and try to lock it away. But how can I take you seriously? You live with purple elephants. You think I'm being dramatic, it's the habit that'll drive you away.